All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cam and Focus Weekly. I am Cam of Cam and Focus. As you can see, I'm in a bit of a different environment today. I am not in my man cave, so I'm not going to be quite as loud and boisterous as I normally am. But anyways, over here on that direction, we have Mr. Andrew. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing good. Enjoying a quiet evening. Nice. And right down below is Mr. Dave. How are you today?
Wonderful. Not ready for work tomorrow, but wonderful.
Oh, I know. It's a damn curse, these 9 to 5s. And over here we have Mr. Cody. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, excited to be back.
Yes, yeah. I'm certainly glad to see you. So, but before we get into this, just a quick announcement. If you've been watching the shows over the last couple of weeks, then you will know that I have a bit of a plan for some tasteful nudity coming up. I do have the Princess Leia bikini ordered. It will be here for this coming Sunday's show. Now that I hit my goal, I think a week and a half ago, but I had said that if I hit 30 subscribers by X day, then I would do a stream in Slave Leia lingerie.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Lingerie, you say?
I'm up to 33 subscribers now.
Just imagine what he'll do for 50, guys. I mean,
for real.
I was going to say
50, at 50, it's like a special show on the OnlyFans site. So
I was going to say, if I hit 50, I'm going to twerk on camera, but I can't. I'm not going to do that because I don't have the ass for it. But
that's the
only reason.
We'll see, though. I thought I'll think of something fun to do for 50 subscribers. I'll think of something, momentous. Anyways, so tonight we are covering Willow. If you haven't heard of this movie, it came out back in 1988. It stars Warwick Davis, Val Kilmer. I mean, just what? And I just got to say, what a great movie! Holy crap, what a great movie! This was a first-time watch for me. I had never seen it before.
What? Okay.
Yes, I was always aware of this movie's existence, but as a kid, it just kind of flew by me, and I ended up watching Dark Crystal instead of Willow. Now I know that Dave thinks of that as some kind of blasphemy, but
agreed.
Did not. I'm one of the few people in this world that just did not care for the Dark Crystal.
It insists upon itself, right?
I think
Dave?
It was overrated.
But never cared for it. It insists upon itself.
I think a big part of the Dark Crystal being so popular is just purely because of what's his name who did the Muppets, Jim Henson.
Yeah.
And I love the Muppets.
I'm
Don't
sure
get me
that
wrong.
was a huge
Love the
factor
Muppets.
for it.
Just didn't care for the Dark Crystal. I didn't care for Labyrinth either. If you really want to boil things down, so
okay. Now see that one's
Blasphemy.
kind of offensive.
Sorry.
Hurts me right here. But
my sister loves that movie, so I can't show her this now.
Oh well, that's it. There goes a subscriber.
Hey,
back down to 29. Dang it.
Don't hate the game, just hate the player.
I'll just skip over this part.
So Andrew, I understand that you had seen this movie before. Were you able to kind of go into this one with like a fresh pair of eyes? Well, was it still kind of surprising to you in a way?
It was, because I hadn't seen it in just over 2 years, so I remembered kind of the gist of the story, but there were a couple things that I forgot, like how funny and how good it is, because I'm watching it again. I kind of already know what to expect, and I just love it. It's got some 80s cheesy stuff to it, but it's not over the top, and it's just a feel-good movie. It's just a good overall.
It does really have kind of a timeless feel to it. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, all the acting is good. The two little brownies are kind of like Ergo Magnificent.
Oh, they're so funny.
With their comedy. So yeah, I love this movie.
How about you, Dave? How many times have you seen this movie? If you had to take a guess.
Umpteen. I can't even tell you. This is one of those. This is one of those ones I watch 2 or 3 times in a year, just because I love this movie. This is a George Lucas movie. He wrote and produced this movie. Ron Howard directed, so you've got an amazing director behind it as well. You've got a stellar cast. One thing that I always love to bring up about this, you've got to remember, in 1982, when Warwick Davis first starred, or when he first was filming Return of the Jedi, because he was Wicket in Return of the Jedi. He was also Wicket in the 2 Ewok movies, which we've talked about before. But when he was doing Wicket, he was 11 years old. Now you're talking about a movie that is he was 16, maybe 17 when he did this movie.
And he's playing a dad.
That's playing crazy.
A dad. Yeah. So, and it's not like he is a very, very mature take on this movie as well. So I love the fact, just stellar performance from him. Everybody, stellar performance. You've got what's his name? Val Kilmer, just amazing stunt work. The love scene between him and Saoirse was hilarious because of the dust of the broken heart. The chemistry between the two of them as well. It was it was a whole lot of they love to hate each other kind of thing. So it was just
great. I'll definitely be watching this more often now that I've seen it again. And I realize how much I love it. I will not wait 2 years again to watch this movie. So
all right. And Cody,
yes.
So when was the last time you saw this movie?
I don't know, maybe last year, maybe year before. They released that Disney Plus series, and then I was like, oh yeah, I like this movie. I need to rewatch it.
We don't talk about that. That's a plague on humanity, is what that was.
Well, it reminded me to watch the movie, so I went and watched it.
Yeah, get him out of here.
But yeah, I kind of exactly what Andrew just said. I was like, oh yeah, I do like this movie. I should watch it more. Because it just has the feel goods, and it's very much like peak of like that almost dark fantasy era of movies in the late 80s. So because there were parts where it's like, oh, this is spooky, and then it was like, but it's not. I don't know. I think the premise is really funny too, because I when I rewatched it for today, I laughed because I was like, oh yeah, the premise is literally like they were killing babies.
I told Cam it's kind of like the story of Moses in the beginning. I said, you picked another Egyptian movie.
I was thinking the same thing. I was
got the dingus den in the house. How's it going?
Hey, because that's the first scene is literally like with Moses. The queen is killing babies because the baby could take her down.
Getting biblical, literally.
Yeah.
And then she puts him in a basket and floats him down the
river.
Oh my god. I can't escape it. I simply cannot escape Egypt.
And you
never
will. You haven't even seen Willow. That's what makes it even funnier.
Oh my god. Oh yeah. Tune in next week as we cover Lawrence of Arabia.
What about Moon Knight? We need to do Moon Knight.
I'm not doing Moon Knight. I'm trying to stay away from the huge franchises here because I want to do things that not everybody has seen, and not everybody's seen Willow. Case in point, me. But yeah, I was legitimately surprised by this movie. Not just that it has that timeless feel to it, not just with the acting and whatnot, but it's just such a well put together movie, and it's a very simple story, but it's a very well told story, and a story like this really lives and dies on its characters, and all the characters are so well realized. And Warwick Davis, he's obviously best known for his work as the Ewok, but this movie it really put me onto the fact that this guy is genuinely a really good actor. Like a really good actor. He had to convey a lot of range from scene to scene. Although I will say, somebody needs to make a drinking game out of how many times Val Kilmer's character's name is yelled.
Yeah.
Morgan.
After a while, I was like the name was starting to just sound like white noise to me.
Do you think that they were like, "Oh, this is a weird name, so we need to make sure the audience knows what it is every 2 seconds"?
Probably. I wouldn't be shocked.
Because
Especially
while I was
then.
watching, I was like, "Oh yeah, Val Kilmer's in this," and then I was like, "Oh yeah, Val Kilmer's in this." You'll never forget.
Yeah.
But you're right. But you know what's so funny? I actually, for a very long time, did not know Warwick Davis was the Ewok Wicket.
Yeah.
So I was like, I knew him from this movie, and I knew him from some other smaller roles he's done. So then when someone else was saying something about it, and I was like, oh yeah, you know, he's two of the goblins in Deathly Hallows Part 2, and they're like, oh yeah, he's known for doing cast makeup, and I was like, no, he's not. And then I looked it up, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, he is.
Yeah, he is.
That was a weird moment. I was like, how did I not know that? I've seen Star Wars probably a trillion times.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Ewoks don't have the human faces, so who cares who plays them? I don't mean that seriously. I don't mean that seriously.
Well, actually,
he also played the Ewok in The Rise of Skywalker too. He played the Wicket character in the Rise. It was, in fact, it was him and his son, who is also a little person, played Wicket and the baby Ewok in The Rise of Skywalker at the end.
Oh, and that's okay. That's cool.
Just in the little everything's crashing scene, the montage scene.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't recall seeing an Ewok in that scene.
Go back and watch Rise of Skywalker.
I don't want to.
Yeah, there's just a small.
It's just a little. It's just a little like 1 minute cameo kind of thing.
I didn't even know those were people. I figured it was just some sort of CGI or a puppet.
Every now and then we still use practical effects, and that's something else I want to bring up here too.
No green screen in this movie.
Effects. The use of practical effects was uncanny. It was so good. I mean, every now and then when you had a huge wide scenery shot, you know, you could say, okay, this background is like a matte painting or something like that. But beyond that, I mean, the only green screen that was being used was for the brownies.
And the big little beast thing, right? Or was that practical too?
I think that was stop motion. But
yeah,
right.
It was
okay, that makes more sense.
But also when he was changing Sherlindria around, because that was one of the big things in the 80s when with the morphing effect that was used to create to go on. That was used by ILM to go on and create things like Terminator from Terminator 2, and then also was it the Abyss?
Yeah, with the water.
Was that the big one, the Abyss?
Yeah.
And so basically that kind of kicked off the whole, we can make humans out of CGI, humans and animals out of CGI and do this well. So this was kind of one of those movies to where it was like, it's still really in its infancy, but it looks really good.
It does look good, yeah. It looks better than some of the CGI today.
Yeah.
No?
Well,
yeah.
Well,
you got to realize our CGI now is full CGI, so it used to be part practical as well. So that's why we kind of have this weird disparaged like look at The Matrix. Like that was when they first started fully transitioning. So there's some scenes that you're like, oh, okay, that looks good, and then there's scenes like Neo.
Oh, it's a cartoon character.
Yeah,
Neo fighting all those jelly smiths.
Yeah, that was
God. That looks so that just looks so silly. But you're right. Effects like that were still in its infancy. But what's funny is that you look at effects like that, and then you look at something like the Phantom Menace that came out 4 years prior, and it's like night and day. You know,
that's where
the
we're
battle
getting
droids
into
for
like
Phantom Menace still hold up.
But that's where we're getting into budget discrepancies.
Oh yeah.
Well, you get into budget discrepancies. Plus, CGIing a robot is a lot easier than CGIing a person, because a robot is angles, and it if it looks choppy, it's a robot. It's supposed to look choppy.
Yeah.
Plus, with Star Wars, the earlier ones, most of, if not all of the backdrops were giant hand painted murals. So they had a flat surface to have a camera looking at all times to work with this infancy of CGI, so it probably made it a lot easier because like when you have a moving like the moving set and stuff, it was probably a lot more difficult back then because it wouldn't even have been true CGI yet. It would have been
Yeah.
what was it called? Like, oh, we talked about this a couple weeks ago because in its infancy, but anyway, the point is, it looks good. Like, there are some scenes where you're like, oh, I see the corner of the backdrop, but the effects were awesome. I was like, how old is this movie? So I was like, wikiing while watching it, and I was like, late '80s, pretty cool.
1988.
Especially like the magic-y scenes. I don't know if y'all ever watched that really bad like Disney knockoff show Once Upon a Time. So
I don't think I
a
have,
couple
no.
of things reminded me of that, but like if it was good. So so
So I gotta go check that out now.
Very Disney Channel, like the commercial in between where they have the magic wand and it very obviously is a really bad
yeah.
like photoshopped effect. That's
I'm Andrew, and you're watching the Disney Channel.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
Exactly that.
And yeah, the scene that kind of brought the practicality of the process home for me was actually the horse wagon chase scene.
Oh yeah.
And you know, you're looking at that and it's like they're actually on that wagon. That wagon is actually going. If that scene was made today, you know, the wagon would be like up on a rig and it'd be kind of, you know, jostling around back and forth, and you know, it'd be mostly stunt doubles. But you're looking at that, it's like, oh my God, they're doing it.
Back when they didn't care about getting hurt, you know, they just did it. You know,
and it reminded me a lot of the scene. I think it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. The scene where Indiana Jones is fighting the guy on the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was all practical.
Yeah, when you look at that and you see that the actors are actually in this dangerous situation, it feels like it heightens the stakes a lot because you don't have all this CGI trickery to make things look super cool and flashy. It's like no, this is it. Like this is like almost like raw footage.
Right. Well, nowadays, if they did something like that, they'd have a long rug on the truck or some sort of CGI background.
Yeah.
But like then they were like literally on the truck fist fighting. So, but especially with these, I say older, but you know, more classic cinema, it came down to how much budget they were going to put into certain things. So practical effects a lot of times were a necessity because using a little bit of gunpowder versus like paying $1 million for a computer program, you know. And if I remember correctly, Willow wasn't really like a box office hit, but then it did really well worldwide. So then it did really well home video. So it ended up, you know, turning a profit, but their budget wasn't really a lot. So I think that is more impressive to me because like there's movies now that have triple that budget and their effects are like
half as good.
Yeah. And like what is it, the one scene where he's fighting those hellhounds or what are they called? That was weird because it was like, are the hellhounds stop motion or is it just how they were filmed?
They're dogs.
They're dogs with fur coats, with big with fur put on them.
Do they have like a mask on them or something?
Yeah, like the banthas in Star Wars were elephants with fur coats on them. That's, I mean, it was a practical effect again.
That's why that looks so weird to me. I wrote down, I was like, what is this?
So I was just gonna say real quick, the budget for Willow was $35 million. And it made just over 57 million total at the box office.
Okay.
So not like a flop, but mixed.
Not exactly. And I imagine that marketing costs back then weren't nearly as outrageous as they are today. So I'm sure that they made like maybe a $5 to $8 million profit off of that.
So what did it make internationally?
Let me go back real quick. Sorry.
Because
that was another odd thing about it was that there was no merchandising for it either. I mean, there was a line of like tiny micro figures, but that was it. I mean, no T-shirts, no movies, no posters. no puzzles, not really much of anything as far as.
And that's
Yeah.
interesting to me because with a big name behind it like George Lucas, you would think that there would be something more.
A big name, and you got to look at. You've got all these. Castles. You could build castles out of this. You can. Hey, there's dragon toys we can make. There's tons.
That is weird.
Opportunities.
I've seen the figurines on eBay, but yeah, I didn't realize there wasn't anything else. That's wild.
On IMDb, it says the gross for like in America was the 57,269,000, and then it says gross worldwide 57,270,000. But that doesn't make sense. That's only like.
Well, you add them together, so it's about
114 billion. 400.
Made quite a lot.
Yeah, for that on a $35 million budget, that's not pocket change.
No,
that's actually very impressive. But the only reason I knew that is because he was on a show in 2017, maybe 18, where it was like a BBC genealogy thing, and he just talked about how before they got into his family history and stuff, he talked about Willow a lot. And I rewatched part of the interview because I was curious about what he said, because I remember he mentioned it and he was like, oh yeah, we were disappointed, and then all of a sudden it was like the VHSs are selling, we're making money. And I was like, oh, that's exciting, because like, you know, if you like a project you worked on and then also it makes money, you feel better about it.
I know Matt Damon did an interview and he was talking about the importance of the DVD and how it used to be you could afford to make a $10 million movie or have a movie only make like, you know, not all its money back at the box office, because in 6 months when the DVD came out, they would usually make that money back. But that's not really the case anymore, unfortunately.
Not with streaming.
No, they have to cut streaming deals now beforehand, so it's a lot more risky.
And that's a shame, because, you know, to own a physical copy of a movie, you now own that movie. Whereas with the streaming service, you're borrowing the movie under the pretense of, you know, if this streaming service ever goes away, or if you can't pay for it, or if the title gets taken off of it, how are you going to watch it, at least legally? Exactly. You know, you don't want to be browsing the internet for ways to watch this movie and end up putting herpes on your computer or something.
No, absolutely, because it's Vudu or Movies Anywhere, one of them, in the terms it basically says like you don't own anything on here. Like,
right.
We'll remove it when we want to. And I'm like, that's insane, but okay. Because back, I don't know if you ever did like the Disney Club. The selling point was you got the DVD, the Blu-ray, and a digital copy of it. So that's why you were paying that price. So now all of a sudden to be like, we're just gonna pull the rug out under you. That to me is like, I don't know, but it's true. You don't have a physical copy of your movies, it's not yours.
Well, and I don't know if you guys had ever seen this movie. It was on Netflix for a while. It was a Netflix original. It was called Hush, directed by Mike Flanagan, who is one of the most incredible horror directors I've ever come across. His work is yes, and his work is amazing, but Netflix just without warning pulled that movie out, and it was a Netflix original. It didn't get any physical release, so now it's just gone.
It's that movie was made with under $1 million. That movie is insane. It made so much money for Netflix. So the fact that they were just like, who cares? Goodbye. And it's
with how money hungry they are with these CEOs, you would think they would do whatever they could to make money.
Is it the one about a deaf writer?
Yeah. And there's like if you're looking at the screen cap, it'll be a guy with like a baby doll mask on. It's actually on AMC Plus and Tubi right now.
Who has AMC Plus?
Nice. Right.
I didn't even know AMC had a subscription service.
They do.
But Tubi's good. I wonder when it got put on there, because
I don't know.
It's weird that we're talking about Hush. I just had this conversation yesterday. I couldn't find it anywhere because it was on Netflix for like a few years, and then they were like, okay, license over, bye.
And that's it. Yeah, it's a shame.
It's weird. And you said it was Mike Flanagan that directed it?
There are two. There's like two different Hush movies. One of them was directed by Mike Flanagan, and that's the one that was taken off of Netflix. I don't think it was. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think it was the one with the deaf girl. I think it was a different one.
This one is the one with the deaf girl, Mike Flanagan. It's on Tubi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotta check it out.
About a deaf.
I have the tab open right now because I'm gonna watch it later.
A deaf and mute writer who retreated into the woods to live a solitary life must fight for her life in silence when a masked killer appears at her window.
Yeah, that movie really good.
Okay,
They did suspense really good.
You had me questioning my sanity for a second. I was like, please tell me I'm not wrong about Mike Flanagan directing this freaking movie.
Yep.
No, I just didn't realize it was him because he's done a lot of other movies I'd really liked, and he also did Midnight Mass, which was really good.
He did Midnight Mass. He did I believe he did Haunting at Hill House. He did Oculus, which I love that movie. Severely underrated. I mean the guy. The Oculus is so good. But anyways, back to Willow. We kind of went off on a tangent here.
Yeah.
So the movie starts out, as Andrew so eloquently put, to bring the trauma right back to me. It starts out very much like the Prince of Egypt. You have this this power hungry queen who hears about a prophecy that a child born will overthrow her and bring peace to the galaxy. and so flashback to Krull. Damn it. Oh, and another flashback to Krull. This movie was also composed by James Horner. So.
I noticed that too when I was seeing the credits. I was like,
that's such a good soundtrack, though.
It is, yeah.
But we were talking about that. Like the highlight of Krull was the soundtrack, but
and a prophecy that never ever took place at all.
Right. But so she the queen rounds up all these pregnant women and starts killing off all their babies. And this baby is born with a certain mark on her arm that, denotes her as the one who's going to overthrow this queen. And so the baby gets whisked away by the
midwife.
The midwife. My brain kept saying Reverend Mother. I was like, no, get away from Dune. But she puts him on a basket of floating grass or something. I'm not quite sure what it was, and pushes him down the river. Just seconds before getting mauled to death by dogs. I'm like, oh my god, this is a kids movie.
Yeah,
but that's PG.
I had to call Mom a few times. I was like, Mom, you said this was PG.
And it got me thinking. It's like kids movies back in the 80s were so much heavier than kids movies now. Because what we were talking about this before the stream, Uncle Buck, rated PG. It's a kids movie, but it's such a heavy family drama that tackles all these very mature themes. And not just themes that these movies are doing, it's the content as well. Because case in point, you have this lady who's getting mauled to death by dogs. Give me just 1 second. Hold on 1 second.
Time for an intermission.
Keep talking.
It's been a lot of seconds. Anyway,
Here's something to discuss. The Mormon Tabernacle Choir is neither a Mormon, a tabernacle, nor a choir. Discuss.
Yeah, it was kind of weird that this movie immediately, I was like, the first time I watched this movie, I don't think I realized it was so Moses-y. The first thing I thought of was like, why are we saving the galaxy? And then the soundtrack very much feels like, remember the beginning of a Hobbit movie, and it kind of like lilted into the Lord of the Rings kind of what would you call it? Not soundtrack, but like the
musical
bit of
cue.
music that they yes, thank you. That's exactly. So that felt like that for me, and then it was like so spooky. And now that I'm thinking about it, she fully got mauled on screen. Like that.
She did.
They would not do that now. They would be. That would have been immediate PG-13.
It's like those canine unit training videos that you see where the guy is wearing the bite suit and the dog just goes up and starts ripping him apart, like ripping right into him. I'm like, oh my god, this is a kid movie.
And something else too, you've got to remember too. I mean, even before all of this happened, was when they find out that this is the baby. The mother is sitting there. I mean, we get our first glimpse of Queen Bavmorda, and I can't remember her name, the actress, but like evil personified right there. She is just an evil looking woman, and you know she will kill you. She will bring about the end of you, and all she does kill her. I mean, just the look on her face, her eyes, just kill her. And then she just walks away. I mean, it's like nothing happened.
Yeah, that was weird. Also, I think that like the whole prophecy thing was more of like she's not herself the baby wasn't going to get rid of her herself, but cause the event to happen. Because inadvertently we got there, but it was like we took the road less traveled versus the child actually growing up and becoming like the hero, like the Joan of Arc that we all wanted.
I feel like, you know, because I mean, prophecies in film are such a heavily prevalent narrative tool, and you know, sometimes, you know, it's seen through, you know, perfectly as is, like Harry Potter, or in this case, I feel like the prophecy is just more. It's just there to give the queen her motivation for what she's doing, and because you have the prophecy that's stated at the beginning of the movie, and then it's really never kind of mentioned again.
Yeah, that was weird. Also, I can't remember the name of the actress either, but good point. She does do evil good because she's Madame Mombi in the Return to Oz movie as well, and she just does
really?
that.
Really?
Yeah,
Holy
she
crap,
just does
I
that
would have
face.
never made that connection.
Yeah, it's because of the makeup. They have her face taped up.
Yeah.
Because I literally the first time I not the first time I watched it, but the first time as an adult I watched Return to Oz, I thought it was
terrifying. Even
really
as a kid, that movie was terrifying.
It really was.
I was like, holy shit. Why are y'all torturing this child?
Very young Fairuza Balk there. But yeah.
But it is weird that she kind of was like, I think because it was more in the beginning, because it really feels like she's on screen for what, all of 5 seconds, and then you're like immediately terrified of this woman. So I think it's definitely more theater of mind because it's set up with the text, classic 80s texted before the movie. Then it's scary for a second, and then it's like party down the river.
Yeah.
So are the dwarfs the Israelites in this?
No, they're the hobbits. Oh.
They're the hobbits. They're not trying to escape their village, though. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. They were just more like xenophobic. They were like, no talk people.
The biblical part ends once Alora is found.
What that proves right there is that you can make a Disney's live action Snow White and have enough little people to make 7 dwarves.
And not do a weird CGI.
And not have to do a weird CGI for the characters.
Because it's also weird because don't the dwarf actors in Hollywood have a guild?
I think they do,
I think so, yeah.
So, and if they don't, then whether they do or not, Peter Dinklage is like the king of them. And
literally.
He's
so boisterous.
Probably Brad Williams is the second in command there.
That's true.
I don't know. The discourse behind that is just like really weird to me. I think it was just like they didn't want it to be stereotypes or whatever. But okay,
it's gonna be way weirder with CGI. So
I love the idea of the village of the village of the little people, if you will, because again, you're dealing with a fantasy novel. One of my big pickups back then was Lord of the Rings. The only Lord of the Rings movie we had at the time was the 1972
Ralph Bakshi.
Yep. Well, that one, and Rankin Bass did The Hobbit, and Rankin and Bass also did The Return of the King, which were animated films. So we didn't really have a Hobbit or a Shire or anything like that, and to see a village of little people, that was like, it's the Hobbit. And that's what I was saying before, when they were off walking, and they're taking him back to the Daikini Crossroads. I was like, it's Moses meets the Hobbits. That's awesome.
Well, I don't remember where I read this, but supposedly this movie marked the largest hiring of little people for a film like ever.
Mm-hmm.
Even more than Wizard of Oz?
Yeah, because they didn't hire
because
a lot of those people in the Wizard of Oz.
No, because the Wizard of Oz is
Yeah.
almost 90% children. That's why they're so
that's
far
true.
back, because they
Yeah.
put a lot of makeup on them to look older. I actually didn't know that until recently. I thought those were all little people. I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
I thought
when I found out they were,
I think it said that they had hired like 250 of them for this movie.
Wow.
And
Believe it,
for
because
the time, that's wild.
all the scenes in the village where they've got like the fair or the whatever going on, and there's all the stuff going on. Willow's doing his magic show at one point, and they're having beer drinking contests and all this other nonsense. So
I want to know what practical effects they were using, because doesn't he do like a card trick or something?
he does
He's got the wood. He puts the log over
the
his
old
arm.
disappearing pig trick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I think with the log, I think his forearm was thin enough to where he could just slide the torch.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
My guess would have been that, because that's a typical that's a magician's trick. So my guess would be that they probably brought someone on to teach him a few like magical illusions to make him look like he's magical. So
that was my second thought on it. Either that it was a practical effect, or they literally just had a magician on staff and we're like, this is what we're gonna do.
we're gonna showcase some of this, so make it look cool.
Yes, you know, you look at the credits and it's like creative consultants, Penn and Teller.
I would have said David Blaine, but there's too much deals with the Devils on that one. Yeah. David Blaine and what's that other? Chris Angel.
Chris Angel.
Yeah.
My friend. So at this fair that they're at, you know, Willow talks a little bit about how he wants to be the apprentice of the sorcerer of the Nelwigs. And he goes through a test where the sorcerer holds up his hand and says, "Pick the finger that rules the world or changes the world," and everybody picks wrong, and even him. And when they're talking later, that the sorcerer asks him, "Well, what finger were you going to pick initially?" And Willow said, "Well, I was going to pick mine." And I was like, "Oh, I would have never thought of that." I was thinking like he would pick the ring finger, and that would mean like, you know, marriage rules the world or something. I don't know, but I would have never thought that would be the solution to that problem.
Played by Billy Barty, by the way. So back in the 70s and 80s, the king of the little people was Billy Barty.
Gotcha.
Billy Barty and maybe Kenny Baker.
Well, isn't Billy Barty the one who makes the cameo at the beginning of the first Lord of the Rings for the birthday? I think he had passed before Lord of the Rings.
I'm not sure.
I'd have to find out.
Yeah, I know he's not with us anymore, but yeah, he did a great job in Willow. But yes, absolutely, I think he would have been the Peter Dinklage of the 80s. But that's smart. I think that's kind of a clever play on like, remember like in the 90s, well, I guess this probably would have been part of it too, the whole idea of like, you've got the power, so like
believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself. Yeah. So I think it was like a clever play on like, you have the ability to change the world, it's not up to someone else. So the test wasn't really a true test, it just, he wanted to know the fiber of your being.
Yeah. And I love that. I love whenever a movie can take an idea or a trope that's very cliche and is often very heavy-handed and convey it in a more subtle and, dare I say, maybe more thought-provoking way. So, I mean, nowadays, you know, we see it a lot with in things like anime and stuff like that, where, you know, the source of your power is, you know, believe in yourself, believe in your friends. You know, you're going to have a flashback where you remember all the things that you're fighting for, and now suddenly you can beat the villain in one punch.
Yeah.
this movie definitely took a different approach to that idea, and I'm glad that as we go through the movie, Willow isn't just a passive observer of the things happening around him. I mean, he participates in battles. He's getting thrown around. I mean, he's getting beat down. Like the scene where the scene at the castle, I forget what it's called. Is it Air Trivy or something? I can't remember. Yes, that's the one. After the baby gets taken away, Willow comes out and he's beaten and bloody, and he falls over in exhaustion. I'm just like this is this is the hero of the movie, and stuff like that really hammers home just how well-rounded of a character Willow is.
That's true. He was very active in it. I also think that was like a good what's the word I'm looking for? Like a parallel. That's not the word I wanted, but parallel will work to show like no, it's more like they were making a message without it being like hitting you on the nose, but it was very much like, yeah, he was a little person, but he was still like actively helping in the world, fighting, protecting this kid. We get to the part with Val Kilmer and they have like their little tete-a-tete, and it's like he wasn't just like there, like how in the Lord of the Rings, for the first part of Fellowship, it kind of just feels like, yeah, the movie's focused around the hobbits, but they're basically just like babies that these people have to protect for the first movie. So to me it's opposite. He very much at no point was like, I need all these people with me. He's like, I got this. So I thought that was a cool parallel for like him, people who are considered like othered to be able to stand up and be able to do things themselves. Yeah. And I appreciate it more as an adult. And then when I rewatched it today, I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Well, so this fair that he's at gets attacked by the dogs, and that's how they find out, because the dog goes straight for what looks to be like a baby cradle, and that's how they find out. Oh, well, the dog's probably looking for a baby, and this is how Willow gets thrown into this quest. He volunteers to take the baby to where she needs to go. And the mayor of that town, I forget his name. It's like Hucklebutt or something like that. It's something super goofy. What's that?
Burglecut. He's not the mayor.
Burglecut.
He's like the richest man in town. He's like people that knows people.
People are volunteering to accompany Willow on his quest, and then the best warrior in the town volunteers to go.
No, not Vonka. He's the best warrior in the village.
and so the sorcerer comes back and says, "Okay, well, this group needs a leader, and the bones choose you." Even though he tells Willow that the bones don't say anything, he says the bones choose you, and he goes, "Vonka." That's like moments like that had me like ugly laughing. I don't. Yeah. It's so quick, but it's so good. The humor in this movie is something that I really hold in high praise. A lot of the physical humor is really funny. The jokes when they hit are very funny as well. To reach your destination, follow this bird, but the bird's going back to the village. Okay, follow the river.
Ignore the bird. Follow the river.
Yeah.
I love it. So then they embark on their quest, and they do eventually reach the Daikini crossing, and this is where they meet Val Kilmer, who, if I have to say his name again, my God, my head's gonna spin. I'm so tired of hearing it.
Todd Mardigan.
God damn it!
I'll hear it in my sleep.
Mad Mardigan.
Oh yeah, you have to say how Warwick Davis says it.
Yeah.
He put so much emphasis on the first syllable.
Mad Mardigan. but he's strung up in a crow's cage, so obviously he was convicted of.
He had a little too much fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. he was convicted of some crime, And while they're at the crossing, this group of soldiers goes by, and one of them is someone that Mad Mortigan knows personally, and he just leaves him to die. I was thinking, okay, well, this is going to be the guy who comes by and cuts him down. They're going to join this big battle. It's like, oh, nope, bye-bye, see ya.
Was well, it had to do with them serving different kings, which it's without getting into the politics of all of it. It's you just know that they serve different people, and that's all there is to it. So they don't like each other because they serve different people. But that guy was also Superman 3. He was Brad Clark's nemesis in Superman 3.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Golly.
I'm trying to find his name right now.
But Mad Mortigan convinces Willow to leave the baby with him, only to have the baby be basically captured in the very next scene by the brownies, which I love the brownies.
I took the baby from you while you were taking a pee-pee.
Their humor could have come off so it could have come off so bad. It really could have, but somehow, some way, they found a great balance of not just physical humor, but dialogue-driven humor as well. I laugh so hard whenever the one falls into the big barrel, and he comes up, he's just like, beer, and he just starts swimming around in it.
It was what it is with them. They've got a real Napoleon complex going on. They're really small, and they know that they're really, really small, but they have to act tough. And being that they're acting tough, and you realize that you could just step on these things, and it makes it funny. They're a perfect comedy trope.
I also think the weird accent they chose to use was pretty comical.
Yeah,
it reminded me of the little what was he, a gremlin that was with the Ice Queen in the first Narnia books? I mean, movie.
Book.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he had a very similar almost European accent.
I think that character was played by Deep Roy.
Yes.
Who was also in the Yoda suit in Empire Strikes Back in some scenes.
Yes, he does a lot of stuff.
He does. He was also.
He was Charlie in the Chocolate Factory.
Yes, he was he was all of the Oompa Loompas.
And I hope they paid him good, because he filmed over 600 hours of Oompa Loompa footage.
And then the original Neverending Story movie too.
Yes,
he was he rode the snail. He was the guy that rode the racing snail.
Yeah. He's been in a lot more things than I would initially have thought. I mean, some movies that I wouldn't even have recognized him in, he's been in. But they do meet back up with Mad Mortigan in this tavern, and he's I guess having an affair with the innkeeper's wife or something like that. He's dressed up as a woman, and
very convincing too.
That whole scene with the innkeeper trying to seduce him was freaking hilarious.
One of the greatest.
You want to breed?
You want to breed? One of the greatest pickup lines of all time. You want to breed?
I gotta use that. I'm using that.
Very subtle. Very subtle. I love it.
You gotta,
exactly.
want to breed.
Let's just be blunt about this. You want to breed?
And then when the soldiers enter and the fighting breaks out and whatnot, he just keeps repeating, "He's a man. He's a man."
Yeah.
Gentlemen, meet Lug.
Oh God. That was hilarious.
In fact, right as they're leaving, his last line, you can just hear him as they're hauling off in the cart. He's not a woman.
Oh yeah, he does scream it. That was really funny.
Yeah, but this is what initiates that awesome cart chase that I was talking about earlier. Fantastically done scene. I forget where I was going with that, but the infant does eventually get captured and is taken into the custody of the evil people, and Willow and Mad Morgan and the brownies infiltrate their camp, and this is where we get the scene where Mad Morgan meets Sosha.
Well, they get Mad Mardigan and Willow get captured with the baby as well, and they're hauled off as slaves, and the brownies come catch up with them and turn them loose, basically.
Yes, and Mad Mardigan meets Sosha, and he's under the influence of the Broken Heart's dust. Is that what it's called?
The dust of the broken heart.
Yeah. And he just starts spouting off all this Shakespearean-esque, poetry to her. And meanwhile, she's trying so hard to find an excuse to kill him. And the chemistry, that like we said, the chemistry that these two actors have, and these two characters have as well, is just it's so charming to watch. I mean, it's like yes, he's under the influence of some heady tonic, but it was just so much fun to watch, and I thought they were cute.
Definitely a fun sort of enemies to lovers thing.
Yeah,
kind of on the nose, literally, but it was cute. I think it was a cute little mix in there. Because usually stuff like that kind of feels forced. Like you'll be like, we're on an adventure, but also romance is here. But this time it was like it actually kind of made a little bit of sense. Because I mean, when we first see her, I immediately was like, golly, she's really pretty.
So you snorted some of that dust too, I see.
Well, I mean, she was a beautiful woman. I was like, why would they have her playing this role? And then I was like, oh, duh. And then I realized,
of course, because that's how it was in the 80s. If you have a beautiful woman in a role, she's somebody's love interest.
Yeah, you can't have an ugly woman.
Yeah,
love interest. Hello.
Oh my gosh, I'm looking at her what she's done in the past because I'm curious. We'll be talking about her tomorrow, Andrew, tomorrow night on MCU Mondays because she's Sister Maggie in Daredevil. So
okay.
I thought she looked familiar. It's just because of the large gap in age.
I was gonna say, it's like been 30 years, so she's 30 years older.
We know something Debbie doesn't.
Ooh, you can use that against her now.
Debbie's probably watching right now. She'll be like,
darn it.
I know now. I saw it on the internet last night.
And then she'll come in with 4 pages of notes about it.
All right.
Well, flips open the notebook.
Yeah. So, as a matter of fact,
I did know that. So Willow and Mad Mardigan escape on a makeshift sled, and and thus comes the moment in the movie that made me laugh the hardest. So after Willow crashes into someone's house, he looks on and sees this enormous snowball rolling towards them, and inside is Mad Mardigan. I don't know why that scene made me laugh so much, but just the sheer ridiculousness of it was hilarious.
Well, that's always one of those things where you see it in cartoons, and somebody is on a mountain and they roll down the hill, and as they roll down the hill, they collect snow and turn into a big snowball and then crash. So,
it's absolutely been done before, but for some reason in the context of this movie, I just don't know why it had me ugly laughing. But
because it's funny.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong. Well, that's
also I'm sorry. Continue.
No. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that's very classic George Lucas. He likes to throw in like cartoon humor, and but it wasn't like oh, that's so distasteful. This is such a serious movie. It fits, and it also fits Mad Mardigan's character because he is ridiculous.
Almost like a character of himself. You have to do something to break that dust of the broken heart spell, and rolling down a hill in snow and then crashing. You see him get up. What? Oh, Sorsha, what? You started spouting poetry.
Yeah.
I don't love her. I want to kill her. Don't I?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So,
Yeah,
so
that
you
did.
have
He
to have
kind of had like
something
a
to
character.
break the spell, and rolling down a hill covered in snow, sure, that'll break the spell. Why not?
And
The slight concussion was the cure the whole
Yeah.
time.
oh yeah, of course. And I don't know how I completely forgot to include that. Willow meets the sorceress Roselle, who has been turned into a I don't know what that
A
is.
muskrat?
A muskrat? I don't.
Sure.
Well, I know that Mad Mardigan calls her a muskrat, but and she keeps on trying to get Willow to turn her back, and every time he does it, the spell keeps failing, and she gets turned into a goose, and she gets turned into well, not a goose. She gets turned into like a blackbird or something. Yeah.
And then a goat.
Yes.
A great goat voice by her, by the way.
You know what was, and again, we get the humor coming into this when he's when they're in the cage and he's trying to transform her, and he says, "I'm a young, beautiful woman," and Mad Mardigan's sitting there going, "Concentrate hard, Willow."
It's just those blink and you miss it type of little moments that like it really makes the humor for me. I love how funny this movie is.
I think that the random humor mixed really well, because sometimes I'm kind of like, I hate this when in film and TV. But actually, rewatching this, I was like, okay, no, I like it. It's a nice mix, because there's points where it gets so serious, and then it's like, calm down.
But it's not MCU style humor though, where the jokes downplay the drama, like something serious happens and someone jokes about it, and suddenly all the tension's gone. This was very effective. I mean, when the serious moments happen, they're given time to set in, and the jokes happen where appropriate. And so yeah, they really established a great balance of tones for this movie. And eventually, the baby is definitively captured by his name Kale,
General Kale, Pat Roach. General Kale, by the way.
Yeah. Yes,
Pat Roach is the he played like all the bad guys in the Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah, literally.
They all assemble in front of the Queen's castle and demand, to give the baby back, and she turns them all into pigs. We get some legitimate body horror here. Watching them transform into pigs. I was like, okay, if I had watched this when I was like 5, 6, 7 years old, this scene would scar me for life. I would never be able to look at pigs the same again.
Yeah, the makeup was really good.
It was. It really, really was. And obviously with them not really using a lot of CGI, you didn't see any shots of active transformation, like where someone starts off one way and then ends up a different way all in one shot. The way that they edited everything made it feel that way though.
Yeah.
And just masterful editing there.
And especially when you had a bunch of like the panning shots, and you had guys that were like just starting their transformation. You had people that were laying there on the ground and they were already half done. And then you had just pigs, because she turned them all into pigs. So you had just like pigs wandering around that were guys that had already been through it. So
I also loved how she didn't change them all at once. She was like, "You're pigs," and it was like a few, and then she went pigs, a few more, and then it was like pigs.
Yeah, she was like Oprah. You're a pig.
You're a pig.
You're a pig.
Yeah.
I mean, she even waited to Sorsha. She didn't change Sorsha right away either.
Yeah.
Because even as she was changing them, she was like, called her off, and it was like all of a sudden, even the brownies, they turned them into little pigs.
Yeah.
But this is the scene where Willow finally has the opportunity to concentrate enough to turn Roselle back into a young, beautiful woman, quote unquote there. But he changes her back, and they start to scheme, and they figure out a way to storm the castle. That they deceive all the men at the front. They have their forces kind of hiding underground underneath the collapsed tents, and then they all run out. This starts our big, epic, climactic battle sequence, and you know, so I mean, some sequences in this are kind of goofy, but if you look at the choreography of what's going on, I mean, for what could be considered by some as just a cheesy or silly '80s movie, the battle is actually pretty well done. I was surprised. You know, I was thinking I was going to see some like some Army of Darkness type stuff where, you know, Bruce Campbell's just swinging the sword two ways the whole time. No, they got pretty creative with it, and I mean, with George Lucas being involved, I'm sure, you know, with his backbone in Star Wars, kind of helping out a little bit there. But
Yeah, they would have been fresh off Star Wars filming this. So
yeah, because Return of the Jedi was only 5 years prior. So
83, yeah.
I actually tried to look up the person who did the fighting choreography, and I wasn't successful finding it. But I did find some cool information about some of the pre-production stuff, because I guess a few of these characters were shortlisted from the Star Wars movies. So that's kind of cool. Like Pat Roach was in line to be Vader.
Oh.
So that would have been weird because he's so big. So Vader would have been like this big burly like. Yeah, that would have been weird. I don't know. I'm kind of glad they didn't do that. That would have been just not it. Because Pat Roach, if I remember correctly, he used to be a professional wrestler, so he had that huge wrestler body. So playing like the general in this, perfect. I wouldn't have wanted to be the person who was doing the costuming for that man, because that would have been a nightmare. Yeah. But I mean, he fit the role perfect as Kale, and it's weird though, also because if you look him up, if I remember, he's really tall and big. So the one scene where he's next to I don't remember if it was Sorcerer or Bad Morta, one of them, he doesn't look so tall. So I wonder if they had these people like standing on little boxes by him, or if they just had him stand like a little farther back so they couldn't move the camera. Because back then a huge thing was the sets were really small. So like if you remember in the beginning and towards the end when we're in that dungeon room again, it almost feels like you're in a little living room because it is just a little room, and even you can kind of tell behind the window it's just a little backdrop. So when they were fighting, yeah, I was kind of impressed. But then I thought about how George Lucas was working on this, and I was like, oh yeah, duh, because it would have been what 88, and then 85 was when which one? I can't even remember. One of the Star Warses.
83 was
83 was Return of the Jedi.
Oh, okay. Then maybe I'm thinking something else.
80 was Empire. 83 was Jedi. 82 was Raiders, which he was the Nazi who got his head buzzed off by the airplane propeller. Right. Then he was the thuggy that got crushed in the Rock Crusher in Temple of Doom.
Man, he just can't catch a break.
And I don't know what I'm thinking of in 85. I thought there was a Star Wars something, because I don't know. Maybe it was just something I misread.
One of the Ewok movies came out in 85.
Yeah.
A lot. Oh, maybe that was it then. Because from 83 to like 92, George Lucas was just on all those Star Wars projects. So
yeah,
who knows? Because that's how what's his name?
Willow, he was also in Never Say Never Again, so he got to fight James Bond.
Oh yeah, the James Bond but not James Bond movie. I love that movie.
He was also in Conan the Destroyer, so he got to fight Arnold Schwarzenegger.
He used to be fighting everybody.
So Arnold Schwarzenegger, James Bond, Conan the Barbarian, James Bond, and Indiana Jones.
He's that giant Celtic chieftain guy in the Robin Hood movie as well, the older one.
Okay.
I don't know if he's credited as it or not, but I
is.
remember looking it up because I was like, who is that giant person? But yeah, it was Val Kilmer. And no, not Val Kilmer. I'm sorry. Warwick Davis is what I was trying to say now. He was approached for this movie because of his role playing the Ewok. Because George Lucas was like, I really like what you do here. And I was like, when I read that, I was like, what do you mean? He was in a costume. So that was really funny. But yes, the fight choreography is good.
Yes, it definitely was. And then we we move on into the battle between the two witches, which I thought was pretty cool too. It reminded me a lot of Gandalf fighting Saruman in Orthanc in Fellowship of the Ring. The way that they just kind of
with an old lady spinning the other old lady around in the
yeah.
sky.
Yeah. I know. I loved a lot of their incantations for them just chanting gibberish. I mean, yeah.
It did feel very, like from the Lord of the Rings. It felt more, I don't know, what's the word? Like, not like believable, but like
grounded.
Yeah, yes, because you know how like Harry Potter is very much like, oh, magic everything, and even the fights they're cool, but it's a lot more like mystical. This felt very much like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm with you. I get it. Let's start screaming at each other.
But finally, Willow comes out and confronts the queen himself, and he tells her that he's a great sorcerer and throws his acorn at her. The acorn that whatever you throw it at turns to stone, which the witch does manage to resist.
She had trouble with it. Did you notice that?
She did have trouble with it. Yes.
She was like looking at it like, oh, there's something here, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, I got it figured out.
But the big magnum opus here was the disappearing pig trick. Well, which I thought was just such a great way to bring
bookend the movie.
Yes, exactly. It brought Willow's personal strengths way like right back home, and I loved it. I thought Literally. That was just it was such a great callback to what made his character so endearing in the first place.
Mm-hmm. It was perfect too because she literally was just like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah,
I was like, "Why did this work?"
and you know, thus ends the movie. You know, Mad Mardigan and Sosha are now, you know, the best of lovers. The baby is set to be the next queen, I suppose. They keep on saying she's a princess, and I'm not quite sure why. I didn't. I mean, if that was
cares?
Somewhere, shut up. well, why is she a princess? How did she end up here? God, I'm gonna have so many flashbacks to Crawl now, and that game that movie is gonna be like
it felt like
that movie is gonna be like seared into my subconscious until the day I die.
I've been branded. My brain has been branded with Crawl.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, yeah, I wasn't here for it, but watching Kroll last week and then watching this, they very much had a similar aesthetic. The only difference is this like had a definitely overarching plot, and my one thing I was gonna say about Kroll is it felt very much like checklisty. Like we have to go to this thing right now. Now we have to go do this thing, and now we have to go talk to this person.
Quest.
Yes, yeah. Like it was like, oh, by the way, here's an NPC none of us knew about, and she lives in a spider lair. And I was like, and also she was my love interest 90 years ago, by the way. Yeah. So I was watching it. I literally had to pause it and be like, did I miss something? So that to me was like, and then it was like, the one and only person that can help us. Oh, he's dead now. But here's the other only one person that can help us. So I was very appreciative because this movie didn't have that. It was very much like
it felt like it actually had a story.
There was actually character development and an arc,
and it brought in these other characters like the Fairy Queen, I keep wanting to call them Ghiblies, the brownies, and even the trolls when they overran the Tyrosaline, whatever it was called, they were all together. It was like plot. So one thing is like I will always talk smack about George Lucas because he loves to edit, and a lot of times we lose bits along the way. But he is really good about keeping the overarching story together, and you can see in this movie I'm appreciative of that because the difference between them, because they're both high fantasy. Well, I would consider Willow like more of a low fantasy because it's more grounded in reality, but it just doesn't feel like I'm on a D&D quest with the bros and we're going through the checklist of everything the DM wants. This is very much like, oh, and we have like a true villain. Because I don't know, was it me, like in Kroll, it felt like the villain was there and then he wasn't and then he was, but also he was very like Sauron, where I'm watching everything happen the whole time, but I'm letting it happen.
Yeah.
So that was
did very
like,
much feel like that.
not to turn this into Kroll Part 2, but
now something else too that so this movie happens, and then it's there was a series of books written by Chris Claremont called Shadow Moon, Shadow Dawn, and Shadow Star, and basically Lucas outlined this is what's supposed to happen. This is how Elora Danan, this is how she basically unites all these kingdoms and comes into her own as the queen, basically. So you've got these 3 novels that basically lined everything out, and they were really good. And then they make this crappy TV show that just
I know, and they threw out the whole plot. And you know, I didn't read those books, but I did read some like a, what would you call it, like a synopsis of them online. So when I watched the Willow show, which I only watched 2 episodes of it, I don't even think I finished it. I found out the reason it was so messed up is because I guess they couldn't get a lot of the people to come back. Well, so it kind of like messed up the already written plot. But why would you write a plot if you don't even have the project set up?
You've got, so you had the lady that played Sorsha came back. Val Kilmer did not, because he's because he's suffering. I mean, he's dealing with throat cancer, I believe.
I mean, he barely is in Top Gun Maverick, but it's literally just for a bit.
Yeah, and then
well, that was understandable. Plus, his health was not good during COVID. I know that because I remember reading about that. But there was apparently a bunch of other people too.
Yeah, only one of the 2 brownies came back. But I don't think any of the original L-Wings came back.
No.
You
know what I loved about the marketing? Because I remember when they were doing the show, they made it seem like Christian Slater was going to be like in the show. Not that that's why I was watching. He's literally only in 1 episode. Briefly.
Weird.
It's not even like he's a main character. I just thought that
that's kind of like what they did for Rings of Power. They made it seem like it was going to be like Hobbits Part 2, Electric Boogaloo, and then you kind of barely see them throughout this political plot of a island that doesn't even exist anymore. So I was watching it, and I was just I was watching it week to week, and I was like, are we gonna see like what's happening with like literally the wizard dude and these other not hobbits? And it was like you get little 5-minute snippets at the end of every episode, basically. But the ads were not like that. It was very much like, oh, this is the big deal. And I was like, so that felt, you're right. It felt, because he was literally only in the first episode, and I think that's probably why I stopped watching it, because it wasn't like I was like, oh, Christian Slater, but it just seemed really weird. Like
it was
just the Willow plot, and they were like, how could we completely ruin this?
They took the Willow plot and said, let's modernize this. Let's put this in the modern world
and let's stretch it out for 8 episodes.
Because I mean, you had Willow walking around. Oh, Elora Danan's going to be so miffed at me. Really? You had pop music at the end of it.
Yeah.
What?
You had them going the power of 1, the power of 2, the power of many.
Many.
Oh, it was horrible. I was like, oh,
I can't believe I finished that.
I watched all of it because I was like, at some point,
too.
it's got to get good. It has to. They've got to come around at some point and make this good. And it was like, it never happened.
No.
So I suffered through all of it. I was just like, oh.
Yeah. I was, and for me, it's the same thing. It was, and I was like, well, I've already watched this many episodes. I might as well just finish it. I've already suffered through 5 episodes. Let me watch the final 3. And then
you guys got more. What's the word? You guys are way more into it. Yeah, fortitude. That's it. Because I was like, no, thank you.
I think I frued up at the end.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it, so
Like, I'm not shocked that they took it off that bad.
Well, you just watched the first movie, so you wouldn't even have known what would have been happening.
yeah, I literally watched it like just a few hours ago.
So really, this is one of those ones we were talking about Hush earlier on, to where Netflix just kind of took it away, and we don't know. I have a feeling that the Willow series, the one that was on Disney Plus, because that was made for Disney Plus,
Yeah,
I doubt you'll ever see that again.
I don't think so.
There's not even a physical copy.
There's no physical copies of it, and Disney.
So
Thank goodness, because I wouldn't.
They
buy it.
wrote and started pre-production for season 2, and then Disney Plus canceled it.
Yeah,
So
I think they
there's
actually
a plot.
canceled it like a week after it ended, or something like that. Like, it was
Correct.
not long.
But the thing is, they were all in on this. They were like, "Yeah, this is gonna do good."
I wonder
but because
what the budget was.
But
for
the thing is,
show.
it came out. Oh, actually, I know that their budget was $150 million.
Oh,
Whoa!
I don't know how much they made because it's streaming and they don't report their numbers correctly like they're supposed to. But yeah,
Dang.
they spent a
You
lot.
did not see the budget on screen at all.
No, you didn't.
It was all CGI filled too. I don't even.
But you
think
gotta
they
realize
used
this CGI shit is like expensive.
They
And it's
used
so crazy
That's true.
because the amount of time and money that they
Yeah.
put into it, even with these new programs that automate a lot of it,
Mhm.
the price point for them is just so insanely high.
That's
they
true.
used all of their all of their budget for CGI and nothing for acting.
Exactly, because it was a
writing.
very. I don't even think they really used the volume at all.
No.
I think it was all just CGI.
I think that they were trying to market the nostalgia factor because this came out in
Yeah.
what 21.
But it didn't work.
22? That was
It
like
did.
everything
Yeah, it was at
coming
the
out
end of
during
22,
COVID was
beginning of
like,
23.
hey, do you guys remember the 80s? Remember nostalgia?
Remember Marys.
It would be like
Yeah.
if they took. That's why I never want a remake or remake of Back to the Future, because if they would, it would be awful. You can't redo that.
I don't
and I
think
know
they could remake it because of a lot of the jokes would not work, and
No.
B, the plot would be so different because if you
Right.
remember, they went to R right now, and it's not like zippy zap future. So it would be kind of cool if they did like a Back to the Future adjacent, like this is a different plot line,
Right,
and we're in a
yeah.
different universe. That would be kind of
Mhm.
cool, but a full remake, no, I
No.
wouldn't. And that's one of my favorite film series, so
Mhm.
absolutely not. And I love
It's
it. to
fine
death,
on
but
its own.
if they
Yeah.
remake it, I would probably be the first one to be like sacrilege.
Yeah.
How dare you?
And they would probably still have Doc Brown. Same person. He'd be like, "Yeah, I've only aged 3 days," and he literally is like in the grave.
Marty, we have to.
All right.
Right.
Well, I'd say that about does it for Willow. Anybody have any final thoughts about this movie? Andrew.
Great movie. If you were like Cam and you haven't seen this for whatever reason, go watch it.
How about you, Dave?
Again, one of my all-time favorites. Love this movie. Have watched it countless times. Thumbs up. Go watch it. Well,
Cody?
I mean, this movie is like a huge cornerstone for like modern fantasy movies and shows and just media. So like not watching this, A, was crazy that you've never seen this movie, and B, if you like fantasy and you want to understand where like we've grown in modern fantasy references and stuff, this is definitely like on like my top 5 watch. Like there's so many references that people make to this movie, that even like small references, like it's yeah, I love it. I also really got into card tricks and like sleight of hand stuff because of this movie when I was a kid. So
Nice.
All right, now, Jen, thanks for tuning in. She says, according to Warwick Davis, Willow had the largest casting call for Little People at the time. Yes, what we talked about.
Oh, yeah,
that,
you did say that.
Yes, what we talked about that towards the beginning of it, and that is very true. Unfortunately, film at the time just didn't have a huge market for little people back then. And what we were talking about Wizard of Oz and how maybe that might have been the case there too, but no, that was mostly children who were cast for the Munchkins. So yes, definitely a good catch on that one.
Yeah, and she just said the thing about meeting Warwick Davis. Yeah, George Lucas, I guess when he met him in 72 or 73, was like, oh, I have a really good project I want you to work on, but it took him that long to get it into pre-pro. But he was like,
Yes,
I want you on this, like 100%. But yeah, we talked a little bit about the casting of Little People, because even today, which I only kind of learned when I was reading about what Peter Dinklage was saying about that Snow White movie that's supposed to come out this year. Little People mostly work in like stage and panto, so they don't get TV and movie roles. So even now, thinking how this movie was in the 80s, golly, that's what, 40, 50 years ago. So, well, no. Yeah. Okay.
So, 37
30,
years ago would
30,
be this
40,
movie.
Yeah, so almost 40 years ago, to think that like it's still like that, and that was such a big deal. And I think that's still the most, because you said what, 200 and something?
250, I think.
So in comparison, The Wizard of Oz hired, I think, 100, maybe 120, and the rest of them were played by children. So
it says here on IMDb that between 225 and 240 actors, little people actors, were hired for the film.
That's
awesome.
Such a huge milestone. Absolutely.
It sucks that it's still the highest. Well,
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
It's interesting for sure.
Especially because like panto in the UK is like almost all of the side roles are played by little people.
Well, yeah, I mean, and as far as I go, as far as final thoughts, I mean, for a first time watch, like I said at the beginning, I was very impressed by this movie. It defied all my expectations, and this is a movie where you really shouldn't have any kind of predisposition going into it, because it's not anything like what you'd expect. And this is one that I think I will turn on again, in the very near future. Yes, well, of course. I mean, this was just such a pleasant watch.
Otherwise, I'll create a prophecy about you.
They're mostly drunk.
It's funny she says very promiscuous, because I was actually just reading this, that the pig scene where she turned them all into pigs, that there was a whole group of pigs that were being very promiscuous with each other during takes, and they had to keep buckets of cold water on hand to separate the pigs.
Oh, that's what that means.
Oh my God.
Okay. Interesting.
Oh, Andrew, this movie is now not age appropriate for you, so we're going to have to.
Use my. Jen was talking about the set of Wizard of Oz, which I read that.
It's funny she brought it up. So
yeah,
we had promiscuous things happening on the set of Willow as well.
Andrew, I'm just going to have to use my my Men in Black zapper on you. Just forget everything you watched.
Exactly.
How did I get here?
So wait, we're not talking about Gods of Egypt?
Yeah, you wiped all that memory. It's 2025.
Oh God,
gosh! Yesterday was 2012. What the heck?
All right. Well, that'll about do it for this week's episode of Cam and Focus Weekly. Andrew, Dave, Cody, thank you guys very much for joining me. Had a lot of fun talking about this. Next week, the list that I put into the group chat shows that next week is Enemy Mine.
Princess Leia.
From 1985 with Dennis Quaid.
And Lawrence Fishburne.
Yes. And that there is another one that I've never seen before. So definitely excited to give that one a shot. And also next week is going to be the day that I debut my man cleavage.
Nice.
So, that's going to be interesting. I'll have to figure out how to give it like a really spicy reveal.
No, thank you.
You have to have you have to have like a big moo on.
we hear, and the Cam walks.
Yeah. I can set my my little ring light here to nice colors. Yes, exactly.
You got to get a Job of the Hut now. You got to get a big like blow up Job of the Hut.
I don't have a big blow up Job of the Hut, but I do have a Job of the Hut little minifigure.
That works.
Okay,
Sure.
okay. Maybe I can like super glue a whip to his hand or something.
Okay,
All
and
right.
with that, I'm out.
And with that, we've reached the conclusion of today's episode. So yes, that'll be next week here on Cam and Focus at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be covering Enemy Mine. So that'll be fun. Thank you guys again very much for joining me. Be sure to, like and subscribe. I hate saying that. I hate saying like and subscribe because it makes me feel like I'm trying to be some kind of weird influencer. But the sentiment still stands. Subscribe to my channel.
We seem to be
appreciate it.
doing anything necessary to reward people for subscribing. So I mean,
And you know what? That is more true than I'd like to admit. All right. Well, thank you guys again, and thank you everybody who tuned in. And Jen, we have not done Labyrinth yet. I can certainly add it to the list, though. That might be one that Dave calls in sick for.
Yeah, Jen, you might want to watch the first part of this show because actually
or
Labyrinth
Dark
and the Dark Crystal were both mentioned. So
That's so
All
funny.
I'm sorry. Go back and watch the first, and then I apologize in advance. So
I'm having deja vu here.
And then next week it'll be the Emoji Movie.
Yeah.
my
I will not watch that. I wouldn't watch that movie if you freaking paid me. Honestly,
1 million subscribers in 2 weeks, and we'll do the Emoji Movie.
That's okay. If you hate good American cinema, I understand.
Oh yeah, good American cinema. That's the movie that says, "Oh, emojis are the most important method of communication." It's like, shut up! I can't stand that.
All right, we got to
movie.
start spamming the group chat with emojis now.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much. We'll see you next week here on Cam and Focus. Bye bye.